thing I still struggle with is telling my story and speaking my truth and still honoring the people who are still part of.
Yes.
Because I'm not coming from a place of, no, don't get me wrong. I go on my rants about the Catholic Church and, the stuff, because there's a lot to unpack there. And we're going through the whole, indigenous, it's just,
there's a lot.
It makes me feel nauseous. Like, I want to be sick if I think about it. But that's not the whole religion or the faith of it.
No,
that is
100%.
the politics of the management of it and the governing part of it. And so, but I find it, even, when you because you love your parents so much. And so when we want to talk about us expanding and changing, do you find that too? You're kind of like, I want to tell
them.
Yes, because I don't want it to come across like I'm ungrateful for the beautiful years and the beautiful, wonderful sense of community that I did learn from my church growing up. And I was in Montreal, so it was a very different church experience than a small town church experience, because it was very multicultural. I was a kid, so I was completely oblivious to the politics, which I'm sure there was a lot of. But I mean, we did liturgical dancing, and I was in the choir. Like, it was a very alive church. It was St. Luke's Parish in Montreal. And I only have wonderful, fond memories. And I loved my memories here. The small church was very different here in Russell, because it was much more conservative, and I wasn't really used to that. And I was coming in with all my great ideas, and let's do a living rosary, and I still remember, who is this girl? And will she please go away? I was like, we should all hold hands during the Our Father, because we did that when I grew up, and just sort of bringing more, that kind of thing. And for the most part, people tolerated me and my ideas, and I had some beautiful friends. But I still feel, out of respect to my friends who I love very much and are still part of that community, finding that space, that gap of, this was my experience, and I want to, these are the things that I want to take and keep from that, and these are the things I'm going to leave, without it coming across like, you shouldn't be Catholic, because I don't believe that. I believe everybody is on their path and will call into their experience what they need for their own expansion, whatever that looks like for them.
Agreed. Yeah, it feels, I think to some, it might feel hurtful, right? That you've chosen to not be in. And there's certain, for my church, there was a big thing in the 90s, or even earlier than that, about women in office, right? Whether women should be serving as deacons or elders or pastors, and there's still, I can't even believe that this is still a conversation. But like that, I remember that as a kid and going, oh, so I could never, women can be Sunday school teachers, can be worship leaders, can be youth leaders, but don't be on a committee to take care of money or to
anything like leadership wise.
Or heaven forbid, stand behind a pulpit. You know? So there's been movement in that way, but I'm like, I'm not ready to be part of that movement for all the other stuff. I'm like, there's the idea of fight from within, or just get out, and I've chosen to just get out. And for me, it had to do a lot with figuring out things like my own sexuality, how people see each other, and how beautiful. So having gone through the deconstruction, how beautiful the reconstruction is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how,
you mentioned them feeling hurt, people feeling hurt that you left because they feel like you're leaving them and abandoning them. But then there's the other layer of salvation. Did you deal with that? Because
but you still believe in God, right? Like that,
or you're still going to claim Jesus as your savior.
Do you still
right? Because then there was the fear that kicked in is, she's going off the path.
Yes.
She's lost her way.
Yeah.
She's not going to make it to heaven. She's not going to, be saved, or all the language around
I had
that.
all of those phrases in my head for myself before I even left, let alone when I told anybody, right? That was still in community and in that space. For sure, those phrases all come back to you, and they're huge. They weigh heavy for a while. But when you can just let those go,
where you can see it for the fear. I sat on a plane once.
The fear. That's for me.
Fear. It's like so gripping.
And when you can let go of that fear, because what are you afraid of? Ultimately, for the Christian community, it's the fear of not being able to go to heaven.
Right.
Well, let's start, and then you get into whole discussions about what is heaven, what is hell.
Exactly. And then again, I would go down this road
Whole
of the logic of that and say, well, I don't want to, again, this whole logic of I don't want to sort of waste my time here or deny myself joy and things here in the hopes that maybe I go somewhere else.
Or deny other people love and joy.
Yes, exactly.
Because, you know, like this whole, again, going back to your talk about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So we believe that, we believe, again, we, the royal we, Christian faith community, if you believe the Gospels and the story of Jesus, God sending the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
You know, for everyone. So we all have a piece of the Holy Spirit within us.
Right.
Not just because I say, oh, I am Christian Reformed. A Holy Spirit is within me.
I made the cut.
So I think like we all carry that within us. It's how do you access that? For me, it's the image of fire. How do you access that fire within?
Yeah.
We all have the ability to do that. You don't need someone on a pulpit telling you how to do that or how to.
So it's the empowerment piece. So so I love your word, the beautiful reconstruction, and the imagery. Oh, I was going to say I was sitting on a plane with a gentleman. I'll never forget this story, and we got talking, and he was in anguish, actual anguish, because he had 3 sons, and one of them had turned away from the church, because his belief was so strong that this human that he loved so much, as we do as parents, had made that decision that he equated that with they're going to perish in hell. It became all-consuming for him. And the anguish and the fear of that was, and I remember sitting there listening to him and, feeling compassionate for him, but also thinking, I think we're okay. Like, I think your son's going to be okay. And then the logic thing again, if a God, everything I was being taught, okay, so if I misstep or make a mistake or do something like that and I'm going to be punished, well, I don't want to be in a relationship with a God like that. That's not appealing for me. So I don't like how that feels. And I don't want to live in fear anymore. And so that was sort of the beginning for me of that deconstruction.
I remember a literal, it was a sermon, ironically enough. Oh. About like the 2 most, I fact check. We might need a fact check on this one.
Fact check.
But the 2 most common phrases in the Bible, which is what they're all reading, is love and fear not. Do not be fear.
Afraid. Yeah.
So what the heck are we doing wrong?
Where did we go off script?
Because both of those things ain't happening a whole lot.
I know.
For a whole lot of people.
Even the word Christian, and again, this is just about talking about our own experiences about reconstruction and stuff. But I would joke and say, I think when people say, are you a Christian? And I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
I think the word Christian has a branding issue right now. I think that it could use a rebrand maybe, and I'll probably get a ton of hate for this. I'm just so sorry. I just don't come at me just with all the comments. But I would say to people, well, I really love the teachings of Jesus and I love the story of Jesus. And I think that there's some really beautiful teachings, as there was with many other amazing masters that have come, and created these ripple effects in the world that are massive. And so I said, I prefer to refer to myself now as a Jesusian. I made up a word.
Jesusian, I love it. I'll be one with you.
I'm a Jesusian.
Sign me up.
Because the word Christian is now so loaded.
It is.
And it's just become this really loaded word over all those years, And I think when you get away from, it's really simple, I think. When people remember how they feel when you're around you, when they're around you, they don't remember what you say or what you're trying to teach them, because really nobody has any business really trying to teach anybody anything. Sharing our experience would be the closest to that, but they remember how they feel. And if you feel unloved and you feel judged, it feels awful.
That will stay.
And that stays and that sticks. And I didn't want to hold on to a set of beliefs that would put me in a situation where I would ever have that happen. So that was one of the deciding factors for me. So in your reconstruction, what are some of the values that you held on to that came from this structure you were raised in, and what are some that you completely let go of and said, no, that's not part of my value system? And as I come into who I am on my own 2 feet, these are the pillars that I'm going to keep with me. What were some of those things for you?
Again, so I don't know that I'm totally reconstructed yet. I feel like that's going to be the rest of my life.
We're all under construction.
Yeah, that's going to be the rest of my life, figuring out all of these things. But I definitely have let go of things like legalities of like, well, Sunday morning you go to church, and you know, this is how you know. And again, these questions that people ask you when you leave. Well, where are you finding Christian community? Yeah, and. For me, it's about finding community. Yeah. You know, it's about finding love. It's about, and yes, when you don't go to church every Sunday and you don't see the same people every week, you have to be a lot more, what's the word?
Vigilant.
You have to be very specific about finding that community.
You have to purposely go look for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to create ways of making those things for yourself, for your children, for your world. So I've held on to the idea that community is important. I believe we are meant to live in community. Agreed. But that can look so different than just happening to be in the same pew on a Sunday morning. Right. I am super close with my parents, who are still very much inside their church. Taking apart what is traditional and what we have to do, like right. You mean the routine of it, the traditional? Yeah, there are some traditions that I truly love. Like I love the going to church on Christmas Day. That was something that we grew up with. Christmas Day, you go to church, and you know, I love that community feeling on because it doesn't feel like Christmas Day if we haven't gone to church or you know, things like that. But when it comes to how I want my kids are my hope. Yeah. My kids are I've had all of these, you know, as I was deconstructing, they're watching me go through this, and we're a very open family. We talk a lot about things. We talk about everything. And they're as I'm reconstructing and bringing back in pieces that I want, but with context. Yeah. They're just so matter of fact. Like even things talking. I mean, they're now going to Catholic school, so they have to take religion at Catholic school as well, which is a whole different thing too. Yeah. But they're so accepting, and so there is no what doesn't matter what you believe or how you know. I want them to have a spiritual life. Yeah. I want them to think about things that are outside of them. I want things that are outside of our community, outside of our country, outside of, you know. Bigger than us, and everything that connects all of us. And I mean, you're doing that by example, by the choices that you're making. And I think our kids watch us, and they do what they see more than what we tell them, you know. So and my kids hold me accountable all the time. You know, if I you know, I make some statement or some belief about something, you know, they're like, Mom, they're fact checking. They're like, did you fact check that? You know, and they're like, Mom, that sounds a little crazy. Like, are you sure you want to say that out loud in front of people? Maybe think on that one a little longer. Maybe you need to process that a little longer. So they're really good for me for that. Yeah. So the pieces of reconstruction, and I'm going through the same thing you're describing. I don't think that it's ever done. Yeah. It's never a done deal. But there are things that I now value so much that I would never give them up. And it's like, we are meant to feel good. And raised the way that I was raised, the messaging is suffer, suffer, suffer. Yes. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shaming, which is horrifying. And so it's the coming back all the time and choosing what feels good to me, like in my heart space, not what do I think I should be doing, because that was all wired weird, you know, because I was
as a codependent, still recovering codependent. If you don't know what that is, you're just wired to be meeting everybody else's needs around you instead of your own. And you're just wired to, your own compass isn't engaged. You don't have your own North Star yet. You are constantly setting your compass to everybody around you. So it's really hard to be codependent because you never really know what you think or what you feel about anything. So part of my reconstruction is, what do I actually think about this? You know, because I know what I was programmed to think, but what do I actually think about this? And how do I actually feel about this? And then just becoming really fiercely protective of, I want to feel good. I want to have people in my life that I feel good with. I want to have conversations I feel good about. And not good like floating through life like rainbows and unicorns.
Yes.
Like there's like the true feeling of feeling good is just this big, warm, wonderful feeling. It's love, really. And so that's one thing that I've become fiercely protective of, which goes against everything I was ever conditioned to be, not only through my faith community I grew up with, but as a woman,
Yes.
as a mother,
Yes.
you know, as a wife, that, you know, we're conditioned to serve others, right? And be there for others. So that was a huge shift for me. And then letting go of the guilt. And I remember saying to my girlfriends, to be like, well, are you thinking about coming back? And they kind of would all kind of wait in the wings and be like, are you coming to Christmas Mass and stuff? Like waiting for me to sort of get through this little phase I was in.
Yeah.
And then I would come returning back. And I said to them, I will come back to church when I no longer feel guilty about not going.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because that was the indicator of the conditioning for me.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny I think that's in all different faiths or different denominations and streams of Christianity, is that the sign of you being a Christian is having your butt in a pew on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, that's not.
Yeah. And did you feel
Doesn't matter how you treat the environment, doesn't matter how you treat the people around you,
Right.
you know, all these things. It's about.
And you're a bigger community, like the connection to other communities. Did you feel, it took a while for me for that hole to kind of close in, that feeling on like being sort of displaced on Sunday mornings, because I'd been going, like I think I left when Maddie was 2, she's almost 16, so 14 years probably now, but for the greater part of my life, that's where I was every Sunday. You know, so you feel that loss and having to fill it in. You know what filled it in for me was the hockey community.
Oh, cool.
I kind of shifted, like I found a beautiful community because all my children played hockey. And so we had, at some time, we had a ridiculous, like 25 ice times a week. It was ridiculous. Everybody was playing competitive. It was crazy. No, I don't recommend it for anybody, actually. But we had, I was very fortunate. Not everybody gets this with their hockey communities, but we had wonderful families. And we're still friends to this day, and even though our kids don't play. So that's how that hole was filled for me, was really with the hockey community, because you're there on Sunday mornings, you know, and traveling for hockey.
For me, it's, again, because it's happened mostly for my family as well over COVID, it's vinyl day for us. We've got a record player, so we only play vinyl records Sunday morning. And pancakes. We make shit tons of pancakes and listen to vinyl. And that's our Sunday morning now.
And how beautiful is that?
So wonderful. We love it.
Yeah, and the kids are your kids, how old are your kids now?
The twins are 14 and then an almost 19-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is the stuff that, like the value of that, the connection, them feeling seen and heard. Oh my gosh, there's so much I wish I could go back and do, because I missed the boat on so many things that I now know that my children needed then, you know, I'm not beating myself up for it, because I was doing the best I could with what I had and what I knew. But when you do know, when you start to know, you know, I wish that I had done certain things better. And creating those traditions now, filling that space on Sunday mornings with that connection and music and all that is really beautiful.
Can I read you one little thing?
Yes, please.
So it was this reflection, I just wrote it the other, like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Just the idea of reflecting on why someone might need to go through this journey, and I think we all at some point need to. I'm sure a lot of people will choose not to, but again, it's their journey. But there were certain phrases, even from as a kid, right? Certain Bible passages or phrases or
Yeah.
things that would keep coming back to me, and it would be like, no, but I love that. I love that piece, and I love and one of them was the be still and know.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something that's kind of popped up in all different times of my life, just be still and know. And then just learning to actually meditate with that has been one of my personal favorite things that's come out of this for me. And so I wrote this.
Okay.
The more I listen and be still, the closer I feel to God and thus myself. If we are truly in the image of God, the closer we are to understanding one, the closer we are to the other. I am. Be still and know. I am who I am. All of those phrases are ringing truer and truer and not haunting me anymore. Sometimes it's whispers, sometimes it's screams. The trees, the flowers, the music, the kids. Be still and know. That's my prayer.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And it's so part of the reconstruction. And one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation is because for anybody listening out there that is sort of feeling wobbly, right? And kind of like wondering, follow it. Do the be still and know. Follow that instinct. Follow that inspiration, because it's calling you down a path, even though it looks very scary. And it looks like everything is crumbling and falling apart, and you're going to lose your friendships and your sense of connection and stuff. Follow it, because I guarantee you it's leading you to an experience of life that is so full and has so much joy and is so authentic and connected. And it's so empowering. And I think part of our experience with our journey has been you claiming your power back, because part of the way we were raised was disempowering. Both, as women, and then in a faith system that says you have to give your power. All the power is from a heavenly God. So the reconstruction is claiming it back. It's like, no, I am in those words, and I matter, and what I think and what I feel matters, and that stillness inside us is our compass. Yes, that's the knowing. That's the guide. And it's so simple, we almost miss it.
Yeah, well, because most people don't take that time to sit still because it is uncomfortable.
It is. We're not taught to.
And it feels lonely. It can feel lonely.
Yeah, and we're not taught to sit in silence. Yeah, that's sort of one of the beginning pieces of finding who you really are, and connecting with your whole being, and sort of unraveling those things and pulling on the threads that you want to keep.
Yes.
Stitch those together, make a beautiful tapestry, and then let the ones that don't serve you anymore go. And it's okay to do that.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks
for being here.
The more we share, the more,
the more bottles of wine I want to drink with you.
You're never alone.
I know. We'll have to do that more. But thank you so much for doing this. I know this is new for you, and you were very brave to come in. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I think, sharing our stories is a really important thing. So I really appreciate it.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.
I know who I am.